Hello. How are you? I meant to say hi. By now you're used to that. It's me, King Polly, and welcome to King Pollys World. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my giant pink clown glasses. Why, you may ask? Well, because it's my 4-year anniversary of King Polly. Woo! Not sure why I'm doing a ghost sound, but so it is. I wanted to kick off this episode with a bang. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, my clown glasses are not prescription, so I cannot see anything. There we go. I put my regular glasses back on, and I can see you now. Can you see me? Perhaps you're listening. I'm very grateful for you, no matter how you have shown up today. I'm really grateful you're here. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. I'm really excited because I've been King Polly for 4 years now, and I guess many of you probably don't even know how I started this, or maybe even what it is, or who knows. So it actually makes a lot of sense that this episode would be like a reminiscing, and just a looking back, and a looking forward, and a being here. Up, down, and all around. Uptown, funky town. Anyways, as you can see, I'm solo here. Pretty exciting. I haven't been solo since episode 2, where I described to you why I chose the name King Polly. I just heard my husband get home. He's walking up the stairs. Hi, baby. Podcast of you. I'm back. It's very fitting that today be solo. Just me and you guys hanging out at my desk. My glorious desk. You know, I can remember the first desk I ever had. And we got it at like Walker Furniture, you know, down on MLK. And it was big and sterile feeling. And it was placed in the family room, which was the TV room, which made it impossible for me to be able to study. I can't focus fully on something with like other words in the background unless they're familiar words, if that makes sense. So that desk didn't get much use, but I always wanted it to, and I always tried, but it just wasn't in the cards. But it felt like a big piece of me knew a day would come when I would find and build a desk like this one. So I'm excited it's here now, if that makes sense. My dog just walked in again. She's wearing a diaper because it's that time of the month. That's right. Dogs have that time of a month if they're not spayed. Go figure. Her moon cycle. Anyways, that was news to me. I didn't know that. Our little Luna. So here I sit now, 4 years after beginning, and it's surreal. And just last week, I had a real hopeless week where I didn't feel like kind of continuing on. It felt fruitless. Like everything I'd been working towards was for nothing. And I'm sure you can relate to that feeling. But I heard this quote that said, "Don't give up. The last part of the fruit tree to show itself is the fruit." And 2, you can't do anything for the fruit alone, right? It's about the journey. So I just processed my hopelessness and sat in it and allowed it and cried and felt it, and then remembered, why I do this and who I am. And I do this because it's what I was created to do. There's nothing else for me to do but to be myself. And it's taken 35 years to even begin to understand what that means. To truly be able to experience who I am and then share it with the world. Because we live in a world that so often requires boxes and labels to fit in, to find out who you are and to find your audience and your niche, right? And it's like, I don't have that. My niche is being a human. My niche is trying to live from the heart. My niche is joy and laughter and freedom and hope and color and whimsy and silliness and spirit and conversation and bringing people together and family. But it has taken 4 years to realize that. I started with putting videos on YouTube, funny sketches I'd thought of and episodes and songs that I wrote, and, really building the show of my dream, so to say, but with a very limited means. Very limited. My iPhone. Thank God for my iPhone. Because I'm not that technical of a human. I record this with GarageBand and I figure it out as I go along. I didn't show up to tech class too much in theater, you know what I mean? But I have always loved to perform. But I had to find how to transcend performance. There's nothing more annoying to me than watching somebody perform. But I love to watch people be in the moment, if that makes sense. So over the last 4 years, I really feel like I've found that. I've had to move through these different mediums and figuring out like what I'm here to share. Because growing up, it was just, I'm going to be a famous actress. I'm going to change the world. I loved to sing, but I didn't have a voice. But I knew there's no way I would be given a desire like that without the means to experience it. So I've really worked the last 4 years on finding my voice and on singing and on just being with what my voice really is. And it's much lower than I ever allowed it to be or thought it was, right? Like, especially as a young little girl growing up. In order to be approved of or listened to or whatnot, I had to change my voice. And what's funny is one of the funniest insults I've ever been given. It's when I was working at a diner downtown and it was early morning, 7 a.m. This guy came in wasted from the night before and he wanted to order to-go food. We didn't do to-go food. Tried to explain it, but we weren't busy, so I was like, we'll just do it. And then he said to me, "Look at you with your Daria looking Squidward looking ass." And I thought that was so funny, but not. It was also very shocking. But it was one of the first times I got to just stand in myself and receive that and just look back and go, this is just who I am. But it was almost like I didn't really realize who I was until that moment. I was like Daria in many ways. If you don't know Daria, she was just the coolest MTV cartoon character ever. And I just loved her so much. And Squidward, I didn't even know who that was. I had to Google it. But it's a SpongeBob big nose squid. So yeah, I am a Daria looking Squidward looking ass. And I embrace it. But that wasn't always the case, right? I knew I always wanted to, on some level, be in the arts. But I was still so connected to ego, like so many, right, actors and actresses are. We don't know who we are, so we want to be other people to find out. We're so sensitive and vulnerable and easily coerced and so codependent. Like we rely so heavily on external validation and other people telling us we're good or that they like us. And I've really had to undo all those things to be here today. I used to get so worried and nervous and like in auditions and things. And now I realize you just have to be who you are. Even if you're pretending to be somebody else, if that makes sense. And my dreams have transformed too over the last 4 years. They went from like this egoic fame to this just spirit knowingness that on some level I have to be known to touch the amount of lives I would like to touch. And these are just things I felt in me my whole life. And I tried to give it up. I really tried to not be involved in anything in the public eye or theater, acting, comedy, improv, music. I gave it up when I was 22 after, the depressive time of Hollywood and sort of recognizing like what Hollywood was, what the industry was, how much of it didn't involve any actual soul. And I didn't then know that I am unable to do anything soulless anymore. But in being with my husband and turning 30, and I was working with somebody who bought a camera and was filming stuff. And it reignited in me this idea of, I could do it just for fun. I finally returned to that in my 30s. What in my child years was just so natural to me was just to have fun. I'd forgotten that. I think we forget that. A lot of us as we grow up. And as soon as I started to do things just for fun, and I thought, wow, I think I have to do this. There was a lot of meditation, prayer, This was coming after a year of intense shadow work, so to say. A lot of things happened that shook me to the depths of my being, where I had no choice but to look at the darkness within and bring it to the light. But to do that, it can get pretty dark. And it did before the light dawned. And that's one of the tattoos I have. The light has dawned. I had opened the Bible and it was there. And that's how it felt with beginning King Pollys, with being rooted in my marriage, with inheriting 2 amazing children. For the first time in my life, feeling safe. I was finally able to be who I am And that fire in me, that love of sharing, of film, of play, of music, of art, of communing with another, it was rekindled and it never fully went out. Like years I tried, I cursed the heavens. Why would you make me have these dreams without the means in which to experience them? And now I see I just needed time. Like that line in the Billy Joel song, Vienna. Slow down, you're doing fine. You can't be everything you want to be before your time. And it's so true. Like everything readies us for where we want to go, but we have to be present to really receive every little morsel of like goodness that exists in the world. And so I started a YouTube channel and videos, and now there's over 170 of them. And sure, I don't have the most views in the world or the most subscribers or the biggest audience. I've been playing to an audience of one for a long time. But everything I've done and put out, I've checked in like on a soul level to ask myself, is this something I want to give to the world and be a part of into eternity? Because that's really what this is. That's what all of us are doing. We just maybe aren't aware that every act, every thought, every choice, every movement, every offering is eternal. Even if it's just in the heart and minds of one other person, like you've affected that person eternally. And before 30, there's no way in hell I would be conscious. I was conscious enough to actually create anything worthy of eternity. I would have fallen victim to just the bullshit that exists in so much entertainment now, A lot of it I grew up on. But then there was always this other side of just the richness and the storytelling and the soul speaking and the being transported. I just love it. And that's what I've tried to do here as best I could with a green screen in my garage. Thanks to King Pollys Husband. Remember that video? We went to Home Depot. Home Depot is my kryptonite, just so you know. Something happens the second I enter Home Depot and I can no longer move. It's like I'm walking in quicksand. I'm just like, not sure why. Now, I walk into a arts and crafts supply store. Watch out, because I come to life. But that's another story. So then, with starting my podcast here, ultimately, it always felt like that was an end game. Growing up watching talk shows, right? Like it was just one of the favorite parts of my days, especially in the summer when I could stay up later. I'd catch up on all of them. Conan, Leno, Letterman. I loved to watch them. But it also depended on the guest. A lot of the jokes were corny, but there were certain things I loved. And the things I loved about the shows were when the heart was involved. You could tell. And I think that's what I'm trying to create here. It's not all just ha ha he he. Like it's real. It's real. It's not just fodder. I'm not trying to just keep up with, what's happening currently in the world, because there are things always currently happening in the world. And that's one of the reasons I built King Pollys World. It's because I was unable to exist and fit in the outside world any longer. It was too much. It was too dark. I had to create what was inside of me. And slowly, just day by day, following my joy, believing in myself, just trying to connect to something bigger than me, I was able to create this, which might not seem like a lot to a lot of people, but it's joyful to me. I have an opportunity now to reach out to human beings that I love, that I admire, that I want to know more about. Sit, meet them face to face, talk, and then share it. Like it's building a community in a really cool way. And I just never would have thought it would work out like this. And yet I dreamt it would, right? And here I am in this bedroom of a townhouse in Vegas that's now a studio that started in a garage. And I mean, if you know me, you know none of this would be possible without the love and belief of my husband and me. Like it really just takes one person to see you, to really see you. I wish that for everyone. I really wish for everyone to find that one. And it changes in life. Like when I was younger, that one was my grandma. Like she saw me. I had a teacher, Miss Johansson. She saw me. And finding my husband was the roots necessary for the blossom. Me and him, we would say, he's the gardener and I'm the flower. And I'm so grateful for that. Because Lord knows, I done been in quite a few gardens with very few flowers. Life has been quite a road here. In these last 4 years, I can't believe it's 4. I thought I would be a millionaire by now, you guys. Isn't that funny? I thought I would be famous as hell. But again, that obviously isn't what was supposed to happen or would have happened. That wouldn't have been love for all. There were so many things within my family that first had to happen too. And being able to just strengthen those bonds and really just have a strong foundation for my family is everything to me. And I don't think starting out I knew that. It was really kind of hard to balance it all and figure it all out. And the last thing I ever wanted to do was force anyone to be a part of King Pollys World, And just little by little, like people have come around to it. And just the other day, my daughter asked if she could be a guest on the podcast. And that was during my kind of rough week. And it made me really remember like why I do any of this. And a lot of it is to be who I didn't have, and growing up as an immature, like feminine girl trapped in a woman's body, as so many of us are. We don't even realize that so many of us were never really mothered. We never crossed that threshold from maiden to mother, which I talk about. And I actually have a podcast coming up I'm so excited about with my favorite teacher ever about that. We'll go more in depth, but I wanted a place to showcase, the feminine and women and myself that didn't rely on exploiting my sexuality, that doesn't rely on pretending to be something that I'm not. To show that, what you do is sacred. And you can be a king. You don't have to be a queen, but you can be. Like, you can be first. You don't have to be second. I just wanted to be able to show a different world than what I see portrayed in the mainstream, which is so reliant on the physical, which is fleeting. I have news for everybody. We leave our body here. Like, why do we forget that? Our body stays here. Okay? When we die, we don't take it. So this fixation that we have on the external, of course it leads to depression and everything else in the world. But when you sort of realize, right, like, oh, I'm not my body, I'm not this vessel, it really frees up your time, let me tell you. Really frees up your time, and it frees up your mind, and it stops restricting you to these standards that somebody else created that don't fit anymore. They really don't fit. I used to think unless I had a full face of makeup on, like I was ugly. I felt that for so many years. And now I can't even imagine putting face makeup on my face. Like, I would feel like a clown. I'm not calling anybody else a clown. I'm just saying I would feel like a clown. Like, there's this element now that I would just feel like, I don't know, when I see a lot of makeup, I just see the time it took to do that. And I'm not saying makeup's bad, okay? It's fun, it's beautiful, it's artistic. It's just when it's used to try to hide that it just makes me a little sad. Coming from someone who tried to hide a lot with it, okay? Okay. So it feels good to be free of that. It feels good to just want to connect to young women and young men and show a different side, just to build something new. And I can't wait to see where we go in the next 4 years, because I think we're taking off. I think we're taking off, Scotty. I think we're taking off. If you just joined me and you're wondering why this is so sad or I'm crying so much. No, I always cry. In a good way, though, because for so long I didn't. I held it in. I let it go. I think tears are a sign of life. There's no reason to hide them. They are definitely not a sign of weakness, because the people I respect most in this world, they cry quite often. I love people that cry. I just love it. Okay, so let's dry these tears. I just want to say a couple more things about this 4 years. I would love to do more full 20-minute episodes. If you guys have watched those, I have 10. And they're really funny. I'm not even joking. Okay. They are funny. They're really funny and good. And I would love to do more sketches and everything, but there's just like, I don't have enough energy and time and focus. Like it's like one thing a week for me. So now it's the podcast. And hey, more hands on deck later on. Let's make a variety show. No, but for real. Because I grew up watching the Cher show, Sonny and Cher. Oh my gosh. I loved it. Loved it so much. I read her autobiography when I was young. And she was one of the few women I kind of had to look up to that was not, Barbie. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Because I never looked like Barbie. Newsflash. I don't know what I look like, but it's not Barbie. A lot of people don't realize too that like I'm half white and the other half kind of a mystery. Growing up, I was told I was Hispanic. And when I would say, what does that mean? Nobody knew. I was either Mexican or Spanish. And my Nana spoke Spanish, taught me how to make tortillas. Not that I remember. Spanish rice. Like I always felt, that I was half brown, even though I don't look it. So it was growing up kind of confusing. My dad, up until first grade, I thought he was black. Like that's how I drew him in pictures. And the teacher asked one time, who's that? I said, that's my dad. And then so when they came in for parent-teacher conference, like those normal things, the teacher laughed and told them what happened. I just thought he was black. He had darker skin. My mom had white skin. And then eventually my Nana, which was my dad's mom, got her DNA done. And it was quite a mix. And there was Spanish, there was Mexican, there was Syrian, there was Native American. I think that's it. I don't know. So I would do a DNA test now, but I just don't want a clone of me walking around somewhere, Like The Island, the movie The Island. Like, all you guys that got your DNA done, you have a clone somewhere. Okay, just kidding, but I watched a lot of science fiction movies in my day. No, but really, I would like to know what my blood is. But at the same time, on some levels it doesn't matter, and on other levels it does matter. But it is interesting just to know that my dad grew up having to be ashamed. Like his dad made them play in the shade because he didn't want them to have darker skin. And I can't even imagine that. Like what that would do to you when you're a child. So I do know I come from a long line of abuse and dysfunctional living. But who doesn't? Truly, who doesn't? Who doesn't? And I think that's a lot of the process of life now, is just waking up to these things and somehow then figuring out what life is now. Facing certain things, undoing things, healing, creating boundaries, and moving through life. That was one of the things too in building King Pollys World. The amount of people who didn't support me and that couldn't see my vision. I now see it wasn't their job to see my vision, but it did still hurt. And a lot of people close to me just didn't support it at all. And all the fire in me wants to just like, I remember who you are. I will seek vengeance. But then I remember, nah, I don't have to do that. All will be well. I think that's one of my favorite things I've learned in life, is it's not my job to punish others. That's not my job. It's also not my job to make other people understand me or like me or approve of me. I just have to do those things for myself, which is pretty gnarly. Pretty gnarly indeed. I really appreciate you guys tuning into this. I know you never really know what to expect here. Neither do I. I show up and we see what happens. I think that's kind of the fun of it. I know I love watching that and listening to that far more than something scripted. Unless what's scripted is actually from the heart. Then I'm all ears. I think it'd be fun to do a top 5 now. What do you guys say? All right, let's see which one. I'm going to randomly choose one. Ooh, this is fun. Top 5 vehicles you've ever had. Okay. Let's go, girls. Na, 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 na. I'm going out tonight. Okay. Top 5 vehicles I've ever had. Okay, well, number 1 is my current baby, Charles the Camry. Charles has been with me since February of 2016. It's the first vehicle me and my husband bought together. And it was the first new vehicle I have ever bought in my life. 2016 Toyota Camry. Pearl white. I love it. He's reliable. He's kind. He's slick. He's sharp. And he plays all the music I love. And has a camera so I don't hit anything when I back up. You know what's funny? I even said to my husband, I was like, you know what? I don't care like how much money I make one day. I think I still want to have a Camry. Just out of loyalty. Because Camry was there for me when nobody was. Okay. My second favorite vehicle I've ever had has to go to Old Yeller. I'm kidding. I never called him Old Yeller. But it was the car I had from 2005 to 2016. 11 years. And that was my Hyundai Elantra in midnight blue. 05 Hyundai Elantra with a peeled off hot pink Roxy sticker on the back window. That car, that car could talk. Oof, glad it can't. Glad it can't. Very glad it can't. The craziest years of my life were in that car. It towards the end just smoked and was trying to break down. But you know what? She held up real good. She took me back and forth from LA a whole lot when I lived there. 1 a.m. drives, blasting, Day and Age by the Killers, Instant Karma by John Lennon, looking up at the stars, crying, weeping, trying to hold my pee for 4 hours. You know, just not a smart thing to do. Really regret that now. Really, just for anybody listening, stop holding your pee, okay? Like, Take the time for yourself. I know we learned in school that we have to ask permission for everything, but we don't. Okay? Okay. That car also always had an ashtray full of American Spirit cigarette butts. I had no shame. I had a friend I'd let borrow my car when we were at work so he could go pick up some goods. And he'd come back and go, you really need to empty that ashtray. Those were the days. Those were the days. Okay, so that's the second one. Third vehicle has to be, it was my grandma's like 91 Buick LeSabre. And she gave it to me. It was going to be my first car. It ran once and then it stopped. But it had a red interior, old lady vibes. She used to take me to the Meadows Mall in it. And I loved that car. It just sat there broken down, but I loved it because it was my grandma's. That was so sweet. She gave it to me. She drove with a foot on each pedal. Isn't that crazy? She didn't use her right foot for both. She was just ding, 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 ding. Anyways, so that's that one. Then I have to say it was like it was a truck. It was a white 4-wheel drive old construction truck pickup. And it was $500. My dad got it for me. I was so happy. It was covered in dust inside. I didn't care. The radio didn't work. I didn't care. The windows were like the old rollies, manuals. I didn't care. And I couldn't get out of the driver's side door. But I didn't care. I loved that. I loved that truck. That's where I drove my first job, Peter Piper Pizza. I drove that truck. And it was the best. I'm forever grateful for that. It was a lot of fun. I could get my friends and they'd scoot in the back, drive around against the law. I was a lawbreaker. And it was a hoot. And then fifth goes to, drumroll please. It is the last vehicle I've ever had. Oh my gosh, I've had 5. Wait, was that 5? Yeah. I can count, man. Okay. And it was a 90 something, early 90 Toyota Camry. And she was my main ride for a hot minute, at least a year, until I got the Hyundai. And it was like steel, light blue, so cool. I put a furry blue wheel cover. I had my blue dice in the mirror. And it had the electric seatbelt. When you got in, they'd go across or something. Yeah. And she was a very faithful car to me, which later my brother got, and then it kept going down a line. But Camrys, man. Shout out to Camrys. All right, well, that does it for my top 5 vehicles. I really appreciate you listening to that. I have a lot of fun talking about myself. I think for so long, because I didn't. So. All right, it's time for closing statements. I'm going to to take a sip of water out of my King Pollys mug. Now available, kingpollys.com. Only buy it if you have plenty of money, okay? Great. Here are my closing statements for today. We really covered a lot. We covered a lot today. I look forward to the rest of the year with you all. If you haven't watched some of my videos, take a gander. Go back and check it out. I want to say I promise you won't be disappointed, but I've learned not to promise anything. So check them out if you're called to. I put a lot of heart and soul into them. I want to thank my family, my husband, and all of you. If you follow me on Instagram, TikTok, you're subscribed on YouTube, if you're listening in Spotify land, Apple land, I want to say thank you so much. I really hope that I can continue to get better and share more and more authentically, and to bring people here to the couch to talk that inspire you, motivate you, help you see the world differently, entertain you. That's my hope. I'm really proud of everything we've built. I couldn't do it without God. No matter what word you use to describe God. That's why we're all here. That's why I'm here, able to do what I am. Because Lord knows if you look at my life from the outside, you would say, what is she doing? How in debt is she? What does she have to show for herself? Oh, baby. Oh, baby. It really is true. The treasure that we build and that we receive is within. And I feel my life is full of treasure. And a lot of that has to do with you all tuning in and being who you are and seeing me. I really appreciate it. I'm sending you a lot of love I don't even want to say in these uncertain times, because believe it or not, it's all uncertain all the time. But it really is about what we focus on, what we feed, what we give life to, who we want to be, what we want to believe in. And above all, let's keep hope alive. Just keep it alive. Let it grow your wings and fly you home. Peace.